Most people actually think that clarity is something that you find when life slows down, when you have time to reflect, when the pressure lifts, when things get easier. My guest today has learned something completely different. He learned that real clarity does not arrive in the quiet. It arrives in the crisis, in the hospital bed after the first heart attack. You made decisions that you may never have made before, Bob. And then, if you are paying attention, you build a life around what those decisions actually revealed to you. Bob Thompson survived two heart attacks, not just one, and a bypass surgery. He did not just recover, he rebuilt into something that became a growth coach, a real estate expert, a speaker, an author. And I love Bob's book, Want More, Take More. And the philosophy at the center of all this sometimes is kind of deceptively simple in my estimation, saying, yes, you can change your life in a world where many people say no more than you say yes. You are welcome to the Clarity Mandate podcast. The world doesn't need more information, it needs better thinking. Bob Thompson, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob. I mean, we wouldn't have traded this moment for anything else. And I want to start before the heart attacks because what happened before makes sense for us to understand what happened after. I'd like you to take me into the life you were living prior to your first health crisis. What were the rhythms? What were the pressures? What were the priorities? And where did you maybe run on empty without knowing?
It's a good question. I would say the 2 or 3 years before the heart attack, I was just, quite honestly, I was working. I was making money hand over fist, no complaints. I was still smoking cigarettes, which, of course, as we obviously know, is not a good idea. Kind of running at both ends of the spectrum there, 24/7. Part of that, there was an indicator that something was wrong probably a year before. And this is going to sound really stupid after the fact, but I'm just going to say it. So I'm at a big music festival with my friends, and my blood pressure and my heart just, I didn't feel good. And this is going to sound so stupid. I really thought it was because my sugar was off because I had been drinking Jack and Coke. So I've been drinking soda all day with my, obviously mixing it with my liquor, smoking my cigarettes. And so I didn't feel good for about a half a day. Didn't really do anything about it. My solution was, well, then I won't drink any more Jack and Coke. I'll switch to beer. That literally was my solution. When I got back in town, I didn't go see the doctor because, again, I felt like, okay, I'm 45, 46. There's nothing wrong with me. I mean, I knew I needed to quit smoking, but at the same time, I was like, well, I've got time to do all of that. Um, so that really would have been the first indicator. That's when I should have gone to the doctor. And really, that was it. It was just a series of little things that I basically ignored up until the day of the first heart attack. My left arm starts hurting and it's also going numb. And finally, my girlfriend at the time, she drove me to the emergency room. And I figured, okay, my blood pressure is high, not a big deal. So I roll in there. They check my blood pressure. They break out the little EKG machine. And at that port, they just attack me. Like they take my shirt off. They give me the little nitro pills, the aspirin. They're talking to me. And I'm like, am I seriously having a heart attack? It didn't feel like a heart attack. It didn't feel like anything. I'm like, sir, you're having a heart attack. And they put me in the night flight and flew me from Suffolk to Norfolk and admitted me to the hospital. But realistically, I just didn't, it didn't feel like a heart attack. I didn't believe that that's what was going on. And I really felt at 46 years of age that I had several more years to even worry about that.
Wow, wow. Thanks, Bob, for your vulnerability and sharing with our listeners the before story and the things that many people out there might still be ignoring. And you have just shared what you actually ignored, the little signs. And I hope that it could be of help to someone out there. But let's shift gear. Most people who survive a serious health event describe two distinct phases: the initial survival response, and then the slower, quiet moment when you have to decide what the crisis actually means. When was that second moment for you, and what did you decide?
After the first heart attack, it was basically okay. At that point, I'd quit smoking. I haven't touched a cigarette since then. I made some dietary changes, made some other adjustments. They put the stent in. I was on a couple of different meds, and I kind of figured, okay, well that was it. I let's be honest, I'd had my fun. I had partied my share, your share, and other people's share along the way. So I really was just focused on getting back to work and moving forward. The second heart attack is really when it kicked in for me. That was October of 2018, the day after my birthday. We had gone out to dinner, had some friends, hung out, and during the night I had a series of, I guess, heart incidents where I just couldn't catch my breath. But again, it didn't register that I was having another heart attack. It just didn't. So the next morning, I told my girlfriend at the time what was going on. We went back to the heart doctor. They took one look at me and they were like, okay, well, we're done. The stents aren't working. You're going to have a heart, you're going to have a bypass. Now, they had me on a blood thinner at the time, so I had to sit in the hospital for about a week and a half before they could actually do the surgery. And they went through the fact that I'm going to go through cardiac rehab and I've got these other things to do. And at that point, that's when it really hit me. And that's when it was like, okay, it was like, now we have a solution. Now I know what's going to have to happen. And to be quite honest, I don't want to say the word looking forward to it, but I hadn't been tested in a long time. Like that serious, emotional test or physical test. I had been successful. I had risen to the top of my profession, doing my thing day in and day out. Bills are getting paid. I'm enjoying myself. I really had no worries, no fears. I bought a new car, bought an RV, doing all these things. So it was like, okay, maybe we're due for a good challenge. And I mean, it was, clearly a challenge, but that was really kind of like there was a sense of calm, quite honestly, because it became, okay, well, now I have a direction. And I'm like, if I know what needs to do next and I can put my head down and work and do it, it's when you don't know what to do, that's where I get out of sorts, as it were. So that's really what it came down to for the second, right after the second heart attack.
Wow. Thank you. Knowing what to do, knowing that the doctors had this under control, knowing that the next steps were clear, gave you that calmness. And you say that your health crisis solidified your belief in the power of persistent progress. I want to understand the mechanism behind that. What specific changes in how you make decisions that really resulted from everything that you went through? And maybe how is that different from how many people, the average person that hasn't been through what you have been through, makes decision? What's the place of maybe fear and looking at things like urgency after a crisis? How does that look like for you?
For me, I think persistent progress is a massive thing, and I think it gets overlooked in a lot of areas. We have a tendency to come from a hustle atmosphere, which is fine. The problem with that is that everybody assumes that if it's not going well, you're not working hard enough. We hear a lot of the gurus that are, well, you need to get up at 5 a.m. and go take an ice plunge and then meditate for 30 minutes and then exercise for an hour. And then if you're not succeeding, you're failing. And that's not the case. What it comes down to 9 out of 10 times is just keep working. There's almost a certain amount of blind faith in what we do that you have to keep moving forward. And I think the worst thing we can do is tell people they're not working hard enough. Because if I believe you, or I think you're an important person, or I want to be like you, whatever it may be, and you're telling me that all this effort I'm putting in isn't doing any good, then you're just going to devastate and destroy me. Probably more so if I'm in a younger age, if I'm 25, 26, 30, and I'm a little bit, I'm not as sure and confident in myself. If I already have imposter syndrome, or I don't feel confident, or let's be honest, there's a ton of negative people in this world. So I'm already dealing with all of these negative voices in my head. And the one person that I'm thinking that I want to be like or whatever is telling me that I'm not working hard enough. Well, then a lot of times it's just going to be, well, what the heck's the point? I might as well just quit. And to me, you have to count the little victories, whether it's, okay, if I can only walk around the block, okay, great. I'm going to walk around. I'll give you a perfect example. When I got home after my bypass surgery, they wanted me to walk back and forth to the mailbox at least once or twice a day. I was staying with my father. So the mailbox is at the end of a country road. So the persistent progress is, okay, the first day I'm going to walk down about halfway and then I'm going to walk back. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to walk halfway and walk back. And then it's going to be, I'm going to do the full walk all the way to the mailbox and all the way back. And then it builds from there. It's not a massive amount of difference, but it's that little bit every single day that gets us to our next point. And I think it's vastly important. I think it's important to listen to people that use that sort of language, like the Les Browns of the world. Again, I don't want to listen to the guy that tells me that, well, if you're not succeeding, you just suck. That's just stupid. That drives me up the wall because it undermines everything everybody is trying to do. So that's where I think persistent progress pays off, because you simply have to tell yourself that you're succeeding and live by your own victory, which could be a minor thing, but it means everything. And I don't mean be delusional. I'm 53. If I start training to join the NFL tomorrow, well, that's just ridiculous. Let's be honest. That's not going to happen. So that's one thing to be delusional, but it's completely different if I wanted to say, I want to write a screenplay in the next year. Okay, well, what are the little steps? Well, let's put an idea together and then we build from there. So there's really nothing that I can't do short of certain physical limitations, whether that's based on age or, quite honestly, lack of ability. I mean, the NFL's not going to call me to come out and play running back, you know.
Wow. Thanks, Bob. I mean, you put it very beautiful out there. I love your lived experience for you when you talk about persistent progress, because you actually practice it and you teach it. And I hope many of our listeners, you want to know more about this, please, we'll put the details for Bob in the show notes, and you can reach out to him to know more about persistent progress and how it can really help you move the needle from where you are. Bob, let's shift gear. You operate across multiple domains: real estate, growth coaching, speaking, authorship, and most people who experience a major health disruption narrow their life. They slow down afterwards, but it's not the case with Bob Thompson. You expanded. What is the decision logic behind the life you are leading? How do you decide to add more when most people decide to actually slow down?
I think, quite honestly, it ended up snowballing. For years, I was an independent real estate agent. I kept my head down. I did my business. I did my thing. I just lived it and did it. I didn't teach it. I didn't coach it. I didn't do any of that. And then after the bypass and the heart attacks, it was like, okay, well, I want to give back. So I started coaching real estate agents. And then that led into, okay, well, apparently somebody wants to listen to what I have to say. Okay, great. So then it becomes, okay, well, we'd really like to see you put a course together for this. Okay, great. We'd like you to speak about it. Okay, great. We really want you to put a book out over this. Okay, great. I can do that. So it's more about, I have a massive problem, and I'm still guilty of imposter syndrome, to where it's, well, why the hell does anybody want to talk to me or listen to what I have to say? And I still struggle with that. So I think it becomes a question of, well, clearly somebody thinks that I know what I'm talking about. And after 20 years in the industry, clearly I do know what I'm talking about, and I coach it and I mentor it. So I might as well take, not necessarily, I don't want to use the word take advantage of these opportunities, because it's something I generally enjoy. And I also think it's important for people to, I'm big on learn from my mistakes. Don't do the stupid things that I did, because I think it's important to stand up and say, yeah, I was an idiot and I made mistakes. I'm okay with that. Is number one, I can't fix it. All I can do is own it. And if one person goes, hey, that kind of makes sense, maybe I will go see a doctor, then that's a victory as far as I'm concerned. So for me, it's really about measuring my time. Um, I do have days where I'm physically exhausted. I've got some kidney issues that have come from the hypertension and the bypass. So there are days when I just don't feel good. So I have to kind of pivot and go, okay, well, this is what I'm working on today. Case in point, I've got my editor, I got two more courses she wants me to put together. So I'll sit down this weekend and time block and make room for that. And I won't do perhaps as much as I normally would do, because I want to focus on this and do that. So I think that's a lot of it. And also, let's be honest, I'm not getting any younger, and it's easy to enjoy your leisure at 30, 25, because you've got plenty of time. You feel like you always have tomorrow. I've already been smacked in the head, and I know that my tomorrows could be finite. So I don't want my story to end on a down note. If I had died after the first heart attack, then I would have ended on a high note. I was a successful real estate agent. I had money in the bank, the whole 9 yards. If I'd have died a month or two after the bypass, well, then I would have just been this broke dude that never recovered, and somebody else would have had to pay my funeral expenses. I mean, it had gotten that bad. So we don't get to choose when we end. So I'm kind of like, well, I'd rather be in the middle of doing stuff. And let's be honest, I like it and it keeps me motivated. It's not just about selling property and making a bunch of money. I mean, obviously, money is important, and that's how we pay bills and all of that. But at the same time, if somebody can learn from my own stupidities, or I can, let's be honest, put something out there that's going to be around forever, then that makes me happy too. And that's important, I think.
Wow,
And
that's
yes,
that.
I'm extremely long winded. I know. I can't help it.
Wow, that's really powerful. And you've explained how everything has snowballed. And I mean, we don't know when the end is. And I think someone listening to you out there who might have thought that, oh, no, I'm just operating in this little niche. I think someone will be inspired to look at what's the opportunities out there for them to actually expand despite their own limitations, which might be different from yours. Maybe theirs is not health, theirs is something else. And I love your philosophy of if you want more, take more. On the surface, your philosophy sounds like ambition, but I suspect that it is more specific than that. Yes, and we have a guest, a third guest on the podcast
We
today.
have been interrupted by Macy the cat. Yes, I had to get
Yes,
up and bring
I
her in,
know.
and now she's yelling at me because apparently I took an extra 30 seconds to get up and bring her in because, she's the one that actually runs the household around here. So I apologize for all of the noise.
Oh, we love Messi the cat, and thank you, Messi, for popping into this episode. I think you just bring some fun out of it, and I hope you're well taken care of so that you can also let Bob carry on with his business of the day. Your philosophy is want more, take more. And on the surface, that really sounds like ambition. But I suspect that there is more specific to what that is. What does want more actually mean in your framework, and what does take more requires of the person who actually wants it?
So I don't think ambition's got a lot to do with it. I think for me, or my focus is it's a so I've always been a hardhead and I always kind of ran the beat to my own drum. I think part of that is quite honestly is going after what you want and don't take no for an answer. And I talk a lot about like working in the dark to where you don't need to tell everybody your business. Focus on the things that you want to get done. Work on them silently. I mean, obviously include your partner or, perhaps a close friend with what you want to accomplish. But to me, it's not saying it's not taking no for an answer and it's not letting people push you around. I don't want to hear that there's not a way to do it. And sometimes you have to shift. So if you've got a 10-point plan and point number five is that you need $1,000 and you don't have it. Okay, well then put part five, put that point aside. Let's move to point six, seven, and eight and figure out, well, eventually we can navigate back to that point. But it's basically about saying, this is what I'm going to do. Whether anybody thinks I can do it or not is immaterial. And I'm going to do the best I can to keep negativity out of my ears, whether it's make better decisions with people that are supportive, because let's be honest, with young people, that's a massive problem. Ignore even family members that are negative or see you in a particular light. I mean, let's be honest, I've got family members, uncles, and aunts that are always going to see me as the same idiot 16-year-old I was at this point 30 years, 40 years ago. I mean, that's the way it goes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just the reality of life. So for me, a lot of it is learning the hard way of telling people what I was going to do and then having everybody just pile on to where like that's a terrible idea. And that even stems as far back as working at the grocery store and then going to get the job at the chemical plant and people telling me that I'm wrong. I'm making $9 an hour at the grocery store. Why would you leave this job? It's the greatest job you'll ever have. Do you not want any more for me than that? Or do you think that's all I can do at 28 years of age? And then leaving the chemical plant and going full time in 2007, this is the greatest job you'll ever have. You've got excellent medical and benefits and all of this. We're in the middle of a recession. You're going to fail and you're going to regret it. So I've learned the hard way to keep my mouth shut and do what I'm going to do. And I don't have time for anybody to tell me otherwise. I don't care who they are. So that's really what it's about is do not quit. Go after what you want. Again, without being delusional, but for the most part, there's a ton of stuff in this world we can accomplish and we have to remember that. And sometimes you got to be a hardhead about it. And sometimes you've got to push somebody out of the way because at the end of the day, they don't care about you enough to let you into the space. So you shove your way into the space. That's pretty much my attitude. You take what you want. You're not sorry.
Wow, that's powerful. You take what you want. You go after what you want. You refuse to listen to the naysayers, but be cautious in your decisions so that you don't make the kind of ambitious steps that might land you into more trouble. And but most professionals who go through disruption, maybe a health crisis, a business failure, forced career transitions. I mean, you've had a fair share of from health to career transitions, respond reactively. They make changes, but sometimes the changes are actually driven by what they're running away from rather than what they are building towards. So, how do you make that shift? How do you convert from a reactive response into an intentional reinvention, like you reinvented yourself from, I mean, you just explained from the salesperson to moving into the chemical plants to moving into real estate and then to coaching, which you've explained the snowballing effect of that, to coaching and training and now being an author and everything else. How do you move towards reinvention rather than just reacting to circumstances that happen to you?
I think it's a combination of finding one or two good partners that you can rely on. So in my case, when it comes to the coaching aspect or the writing aspect, I've got an editor, Nicole Banks, with the niche work that I can bounce my stuff off of, or sometimes more to the point, she can go, "Hey, dummy, when's the next installment supposed to come in?" Or, I've got four other people that are waiting for you to do something. I need you to get this done because we get wrapped in our own head, or we get a little lazy, or we get a little off focus. So I think that's important, even if it's just somebody that you can bounce stuff off of, or quite honestly, can give you that encouragement when you I'll give you a good example. In real estate, at least once a month, there's a day or two where everything is quiet. Like everything is under contract, getting ready to close, or everything has kind of been wrapped up into a tidy bum, and you feel like there's nothing going on. Invariably, at least once a month, when my phone doesn't ring, I go, well, I'm done. Nobody's ever going to buy a house for me ever again, which is ridiculous because I can look back over 20 years and go, yeah, you said that last month and you got three closings this month, or you said that the month before and you've got this going on. So there's always that element there of, nobody loves me anymore. I'm done, which is silly, but it's a part of who we are. And I think you have to, part of being proactive instead of being reactive is knowing that I've put the work in. So again, I can go back, okay, well, I've set this up and I've set this up, I've set this up. I've got three-quarters of the course done. I need to finish this last portion. I'll get that done. I've got three meetings lined up for next week with prospective buyers and sellers. So hopefully that will go well. I know this other property is going to go on the market in 3 months. We'll be ready for that. So it's really, again, it goes back to counting the small wins and the small victories, knowing that if I continue that pattern, it will eventually move into, into bigger and better things along the way. Being reactive to everything works great to some extent when you're in a 9 to 5 because there's so many elements that are outside your control. But even then, as I talk about in the book, you can still go back and create your own path and go, okay, well, I want to move up in the food chain here. How do I do it? Oh, my company's paying for school. Well, then I guess I need to take myself back to school so I can move up the food chain. So I think that's where the proactivity pays off. And I think that's where it stems from, is it goes back to controlling as much of your own destiny as you can. Obviously, we can't control it all, but we can at least choose which path we take or choose how we're going to walk down that path anyway.
Wow, that's powerful. We can at least work on things that we can control. We can go out there and do the things that will keep us in that path of reinventing ourselves and being more proactive. And you can engage Bob offline to get more details about this. Let's zoom into real estate. And it's an industry that is built on trust. It's an industry built on endurance, an industry built on reading people accurately. Growth coaching, it's an industry built on the same thing. I mean, you won't coach people in an environment where there is no trust. And when you look at all that, How does your experience as a real estate professional, the negotiations, the relationship cycles, the market volatility, how has all these informed how you coach people through their transitions in their own careers in real estate?
For me, I think, and this is what I tell my agents, a lot of that is 80/20, which is keep your mouth shut. You learn more by listening, whether it's, let's say, if it's a real estate agent that I'm coaching. Okay, well, what is their style? Where are they at? What are they trying to accomplish? Are they a person that's, let's be honest, is kind of all over the place to where they're like, ooh, squirrel, and they move in that direction? How do we understand that and help them continue to do that? Because that's a good thing. You're a hustler and you're trying to hustle, but you also need to learn how to do paperwork properly and write things down and reach out to other people. If you're trying to shift from one career to the next, what's holding you back? Again, it goes back to listening. Is it your own brain that's stopping you from moving forward, which again would be imposter syndrome? Or are you surrounded by people that are so negative, you just can't assume that you can get any better? And I'll give you a good example of that. I've got a Section 8 program here in Norfolk, Virginia area. So basically, you can use your Section 8 voucher for rent and you can also use it to purchase a home. So we're focusing on that aspect, trying to reach out and get folks to understand that they can make this jump and there's ways to do it. It's not easy, there's some hard work involved. But what I'm finding is the folks that have gotten involved want more for themselves, and but at the same time they're surrounded by people that are telling them that it's a scam, it can't happen, and they're never going to get anywhere because they're used to being in that headspace. So it's trying to overcome that, and that again goes back to listening and going, okay, well, just because somebody else that you know didn't do it doesn't mean that you can't do it, or at least let's take it step by step. People like to talk about themselves. Those are facts. So if you just listen, that person will tell you, well, me and the husband have two kids. We want to have it. We're talking about having a third. And, Johnny works from home. So we're going to need some more space. And by the way, my parents live 30 minutes away. You just answered three-quarters of any of the questions I was going to ask you by me just keeping my mouth shut and letting you talk. And I think that's the key to 95% of that is just shut up and listen. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Shut up and listen. And I love what you say. People want to talk about themselves, and people are in different headspaces. And if they can listen and get the real guidance, the real steps, they're going to move and change their circumstances, not what their neighbor's circumstance is or what their neighbor's experience is, but them actually walking their own journey. And that's quite powerful.
It's problem solving to be helpful and help them problem solve. It's not going, well, today's your lucky day because you've picked the greatest real estate agent of all time, and let me give you my list of things that I'm accomplished. Quite honestly, the average client, nobody cares. They want their problem solved. Their problem is currently, I'm approved for $320,000. I need to find a house. I need my closing costs paid. We need to do this and we need to do it in the next 2 months. Okay, that's what we focus on, not how magically great I think I am, because none of that means nothing if I can't help them and they don't want to hear about it. So yeah, that's really what it comes down to is nobody wants to hear your accomplishments. They want to know that you can fix their problem.
It's not always about you, it's about them. It's about their problem. It's about how you can help them fix their problem. You want to talk more with Bob. We will be sharing more details about him in the show notes so you can engage him and get more on how to actually approach your own client and deal with the problems that they are facing. And Bob, two heart attacks, bypass surgery, this is not a wake-up call. This is two wake-up calls. And most people will honor the first one maybe for 6 months and then drift back What is the discipline, the actual practice systems that has prevented the drift for you, not the motivation, the mechanism that you now live your life by?
So I realized that I needed to keep my weight off, and I've been able to do that for about a year and a half now. I stay under 200 pounds and I feel better. And I know for a lot of people, you're not supposed to check the scale every day. I pretty much check the scale every day. I've learned how to, I mean, I never got big, but I was definitely overweight, and I'm only about 5'9". So let's be honest, I'm short to start with. And if you're over 200 pounds and 5'9", technically you're overweight, which is true. So I had a problem with junk food, and I don't say like Cheetos and stuff like that. I'm talking box macaroni and cheese, eating a lot of that. And it's a comfort food, right? So whether you feel, if you don't feel good, that makes you feel better. So that's what you end up eating. So the biggest thing for me is that I don't want to, I feel better when I'm under 200 pounds. I have some strength to me. I sleep better. Um, I haven't thought about a cigarette. I always figured that would be the one thing that I would fight over in my brain. But something about, and I can't say honestly that I would have ever quit smoking or it would have been easy if I had had to do it on my own, like in just like a normal, well, today's a September 1st and I'm going to try to quit smoking. Having the first heart attack, like I never touched another cigarette. I have no desire to smoke a cigarette. And again, I'm assuming it's got something to do with that because it never comes up in life. So for me, it's more about I feel my best when I'm keeping my weight down. I feel my best when I get a lot of sleep. So it's a matter of making those decisions. I'm not gonna. I mean, I my friends give me crap about it because half the time I'll be in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock. Because let's be honest, it's a modern world, and anything I want to watch on TV, I can watch tomorrow. So I'm sitting around the house. What am I staying up for? There's nothing to keep me awake. It's me and the cat. The cat's ready for bed. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm going to end up getting up early anyway. So I might as well go settle into bed and goof off on the phone for 15 minutes and then go to bed and be done with it. So it's making smarter choices like that and saving my time and energy for, okay, so like tomorrow night, a bunch of us will go to our little local watering hole and we're going to do some trivia. We're going to hang out, catch up, all of that. So I'm going to take it easy. And that's going to be my one night to stay up a little bit later and visit with friends and all of that. And it's just a priority game more than anything else at this point. What is my priority? My priority is trying to stay healthy so I can continue to get things done.
Thanks, Bob. Thank you very much. If someone in our audience right now is living the life you were living before your first heart attack, running hard, asking whether their direction is right, deferring the important decisions, what is the biggest move that they should make this week after listening to this episode? Not a mindset shift per se, a decision, maybe a concrete first action that they should be taking.
Absolutely do a self check, which is basically have a real conversation. Am I happy? Where am I going? Am I happy at the job that I have or can I adjust it? What am I doing with my time? If I'm do the monetary self check. If I'm loaded on Friday night and broke on Monday, there's a problem. So I think it's really sitting down and absolutely giving a proper self check. Where am I at in my world? And then from there, all of the other checks and all of the other stuff will work itself out. So if I'm happy in my relationship and I'm happy in my money, but I'm not happy in my profession, okay, well, that leads into the professional self check, which is how do we adjust that? Is it this particular job or maybe this particular boss, or maybe I do need to take advantage of opportunities within my job to maybe I can get out of this particular stratosphere or rut that I'm in, whether it's getting more education or finding a job at a different location, even though it may be the same profession, but a different company. That means I got to put a resume together. There's all these little micro steps that come from figuring out where I am first. Then from that point, you can start taking micro steps to make those adjustments, which means you'll start thinking about it a little bit more and it will create the new focus and you will start problem solving because you become in that problem solving mindset of, well, I've already discovered I'm unhappy. I've discovered one of these three things that's making me unhappy, which is either personally, professionally, or monetarily. And now I can figure out how to make those changes to solve that problem. And then you can slowly micro, move forward from there.
Wow, that's powerful. And the name of this podcast is the Clarity Mandate. I believe there are moments in everyone's life that sometimes forces us to choose where clarity stops being optional. For you, that moment might have arrived in the hospital bed. And when you look back, what is the one thing that the crisis gave you that you could not have acquired otherwise? And what did you wish, or you still wish you had understood before the clarity moment or the crisis moment arrived?
I wish that I hadn't been so blind to the fact that just because I'm in my late 40s that I can't completely fall apart. I mean, blind faith is a good thing in a lot of ways, but it can also, you know, when you're not prepared. And I thought I was prepared. I thought, okay, well, I've got money saved in the bank, I've got credit card, I've got this. If I, for whatever reason, go to the doctor and I get sick for a week or two, I'll survive and I'll be fine. And I was not as nearly prepared as I thought I was. I thought I had a handle on everything, and I was clearly wrong. The other thing that I learned, which I'll absolutely tell everybody, is I needed to learn how to ask for help. And I was not good at that. I didn't tell anybody that I was broke until I was broke and the car was gone and the bank account had been canceled, where I had to reach out to my friends, I had to reach out to my father and ask for help because I had spent years handling my business and not asking for help from anybody. Period. Just wasn't going to happen. I'm a grown man. It's the way I was raised. I'm going to do it this way, and that's the end of it. So for me, the biggest thing is asking for help sooner than later actually makes the entire process a lot easier. And that's one of the biggest things that I completely dropped the ball on.
Thank you, Bob, for being so vulnerable, for sharing these powerful lessons, and especially the lessons that you learned, the philosophy that you now live by, and some of the things that you now do to keep yourself healthy and focused on the business that you are building. As we begin to round up, is there anything more that you would like to share with our audience?
I'm going to give you two things. So in 2008, I joined my first big full time real estate team. I had been doing real estate part time, then I went full time in 2007. I joined this big power team in 2008. And I've got a property that's not selling because it's overpriced. And I'm arguing with my broker. And finally, my broker looks at me. He goes, "How many houses have you sold?" And I started stumbling and fumbling because I didn't have a very good answer and I hadn't really accomplished a whole lot. And he's like, "Why are you arguing with me?" It's like, "My name is on the door. You work for me. I pay for this building." And the light came on, which was basically shut up and listen to people that know better than you. And I had to learn that the hard way. And it literally was like a lightning bolt, like, oh, good Lord, he's right. Clearly the man knows what he's doing. He runs this entire organization and I work for him. So maybe I should keep my mouth shut. So I took that to be there's nothing wrong with listening to your betters. We all have people in this world that are better at us than certain things. Now, you can get a second opinion, but I'm not going to argue with my mechanic because I don't know how to fix a car. But I can certainly go see another mechanic and go, am I being ripped off or not? But I'm not going to argue with him. I'm not going to argue with my HVAC guy on why my heat and AC doesn't work. And I think we all have a habit of doing that. I think the most, and it sounds really silly, the most obvious response to that is me arguing with the football team on Sundays. I've never played professional sports. I never made it past Pee Wee football. But yet I will sit there and argue with the coach. I can't believe he played that play. That was crazy. He should have played the running back. Most of us as men do it every single Sunday for football. None of us really know what we're talking about, but we act like we should be on the sidelines coaching the team. And we all do it. And in that case, it's fun because nobody hears us. It doesn't really make a difference, but it affects our thinking from day to day. And I think that's a massive problem. It's okay to not be the best at something because other than certain physical activities like jumping and basketball and all of that, there is no finite, you're the greatest at this. There's multiple people that can play the heck out of a guitar and can sing and rap and do all of that. But most of those people are going to be better than we are at these things, and that's okay. That's how you learn and get better. So I think that's a big one. The other one is, and this is what I tell every entrepreneur, everybody that wants to be an entrepreneur. In 2010, I'm at a real estate convention. I'm talking to the top agent in the company, and I'm like, I like real estate, but I don't like talking about it. And she goes, if you don't tell people what you do, you can't do it anymore. And again, it's a light bulb moment. If I work at Walmart, I can go and work my 8 hours, come home, never have to talk to a soul, never be on social media. I can disappear into life and into the world. If you run your own business, I don't care what it is, you have to tell everybody that you do it because otherwise you won't be able to do it anymore. Simple as that. And if you love it, then you've got to be twice as excited about it because let's be honest, if I don't tell anybody I'm in real estate, sooner or later, I got to go get a real job and I'm not qualified to do anything else at this point. Walmart's not going to hire me. So those are the two biggest aha moments, and those are the ones that I take with me, and I think they fit into whatever anybody is trying to do.
Wow, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that with our listeners. Bob Thompson, two moments that most people would call endings. You converted them into the most decisive clarity moment of your career. What you have given our audience today is not survival story. It is a decision framework that can help anyone listening to this episode to build irrespective of the conditions that many people out there might call hopeless or something that they might think they would never get out of. And the mandate is clear, and you chose to answer the question, the call, even twice. And to everyone that is listening to this episode out there, the mandate is clear. If you want more clarity, we will be putting details about Bob's book in the show notes. We'll be putting details about how you can reach him to get more clarity so that you can go out there and execute your own mandate. Bob's book and everything else that he has shared with us would be put in the description. I am Dr. Vivian Atud, and this has the Clarity Mandate. Thank you.